The morning was bright and warm, with sunlight streaming through the tall windows of the classroom. Children were chatting quietly as they settled into their seats, some finishing the little breakfasts their parents had packed for them, and others still carrying the sleepy expressions of having just woken up. In the middle of the classroom sat a young girl with her hair neatly braided, decorated with small, colorful beads. She was excited about the day ahead, not knowing that something unexpected was about to happen. The teacher, someone who was generally well liked by the students, walked down the rows of desks, checking homework and greeting each child with a smile. She had a reputation for being strict when it came to classroom rules, but most of the children respected her because she was fair. Today, however, she noticed something about the girl that made her pause. The braids on the girl's head seemed a bit untidy, at least to her eyes, and she thought that it needed fixing. Without asking for permission, she decided she would take care of it herself. The girl felt a little ticklish as the teacher gently tugged at the strands of her hair. She smiled at first, thinking it might just be a little grooming, but as the teacher pulled out scissors and began cutting, the smile faded, replaced by a sudden sense of panic. She tried to tell the teacher to stop, but her voice was small, barely audible over the low hum of the classroom. The scissors snipped through her braids, some of the beads scattering onto the desk and floor. Each cut felt like a sharp, unfair interruption to her personal space. Other students turned in their seats to watch. Whispers spread across the room, a mixture of curiosity, shock, and disbelief. Some of them had never seen anyone's hair cut at school like this, especially without the child's permission. A few of the braver students tried to speak up, suggesting that maybe the teacher should ask first. But the teacher, focused on her task, continued, thinking she was doing something helpful and necessary. The girl's eyes filled with tears. She felt embarrassed, humiliated in front of her classmates. She couldn't understand why the teacher thought it was okay to cut her hair without asking her or her parents. Her hands trembled as she reached up to touch the remaining braids, feeling the uneven lengths where the scissors had snipped. The beads that had been neatly threaded into her hair now lay scattered on the floor, some broken, as if echoing the sudden chaos in her mind. As the class continued, the girl tried to focus on her schoolwork, but her mind kept wandering back to the moment when her hair had been cut. She could feel the other children staring, their curious eyes making her feel even smaller. Every time someone glanced at her hair, she felt a wave of self-consciousness. She didn't say a word, hoping that if she stayed quiet, the moment would pass and no one would notice how upset she really was. Meanwhile, the teacher, unaware of the depth of the girl's feelings, continued with the lesson. She thought she had done the right thing, believing she was helping the child by making her hair look neater. She didn't realize that what she saw as a minor grooming task had crossed a personal boundary. To her, it was just hair. To the girl, it was part of her identity, her culture, and her sense of self. She had unknowingly taken something precious without permission, and the weight of that mistake was growing heavier with each passing moment. Recess arrived, and the children ran outside laughing and playing games. The girl stayed behind for a moment, sitting quietly on the edge of the playground. She felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. Why had the teacher done this? Did she not understand how important her hair was to her? She felt like no one really cared about her feelings. The laughter of other children seemed distant and hollow, a reminder that her world had been shaken in a matter of minutes. When the school bell rang, signaling the end of the day, the girl gathered her things slowly. She didn't rush to leave, wanting to avoid the eyes of her classmates. Her mother was waiting in the car outside, smiling and ready to hear about her day. The girl's stomach churned as she tried to find the right words. Finally, she blurted out, her voice shaking, what had happened in the classroom. Her mother's smile faded as she saw the tear-streaked face and the uneven hair. She listened carefully, her expression a mix of concern and calm determination. She asked her daughter to show her exactly what had been done, running her fingers through the cut braids, noting the uneven lengths and broken beads. As they drove home, the girl's mother held her hand, offering comfort and understanding. She told her daughter that she had done nothing wrong, that her feelings were valid, and that she would make sure something was done about it. She wanted her daughter to know that she was seen and heard, that her personal space and identity mattered. The girl felt a small sense of relief, knowing her mother was there, ready to protect and support her. At home, the mother examined the hair more closely. She spoke gently but firmly, explaining to her daughter that some people don't always understand how important certain things are to others. She reassured her that her hair was beautiful and that the way she wore it was special. The girl listened, nodding, trying to absorb her mother's words. She felt the warmth of her mother's hand on hers and the steady, calm presence that made her feel safe again. That night, the girl lay in bed, thinking about the day. The images of the classroom, the snipping scissors, and the scattered beads replayed in her mind. But now she also thought about her mother's words, her calm voice, and the promise that the situation would be handled. She realized that even though something unfair had happened, she was not alone. Someone she trusted deeply was ready to stand up for her. The incident at school was more than just a haircut. It was a lesson in boundaries, respect, and understanding. For the girl, it was a moment of confusion and hurt. But it also became the beginning of a story where she would see justice, empathy, and care in action. As she drifted off to sleep, she felt a mix of emotions: sadness for what had happened, but hope for the steps that would follow. She didn't know yet how the day would end, but she felt the quiet strength that comes from being supported by someone who truly cares. In the classroom, the teacher had no idea the impact of her actions. She thought the day had ended normally, but in reality, she had set in motion a series of events that would challenge her understanding of personal boundaries and respect. The girl's mother, a police captain, would handle the situation with grace and authority, ensuring that the child's voice was heard and valued. The first part of the story ended with this quiet tension, a mix of hurt and hope, setting the stage for the next steps that would follow. After arriving home, the girl slowly walked into the living room, still feeling the sting of the day's events. Her small hands fidgeted nervously as she held the backpack close to her chest. Her mother, the police captain, looked up from the papers she was reviewing at the table and smiled warmly, as she always did when her daughter came home. The girl tried to keep her face neutral, but the uneven hair, beads scattered here and there, and the slight trembling of her lips gave her away. Her mother immediately noticed that something was wrong. She set the papers aside and motioned for her daughter to sit beside her on the couch. The girl perched next to her mother, trying to take deep breaths to calm herself. Finally, the words tumbled out, shaky and rushed, as she explained the incident in the classroom. She told her mother how the teacher had taken scissors and cut her braids without asking, how she had tried to stop her, how the other children had watched and whispered, and how humiliated she felt. Her voice wavered and tears slid down her cheeks. Her mother's expression shifted from concern to calm determination. She reached out and held her daughter's hands gently. She listened carefully, nodding, making sure to understand every detail. She wanted her daughter to feel heard and supported, not rushed or judged. "It wasn't your fault," she said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong. You were sitting there and someone crossed a boundary that should never have been crossed." The girl looked up at her mother, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and lingering sadness. She had feared that maybe she had done something to cause it, that perhaps her hair wasn't neat enough or that she should have spoken louder. But her mother's words reassured her that she was innocent and that her feelings were valid. After a few moments, her mother asked the girl to show her exactly what had been done to her hair. Carefully, the girl held out her hands and her hair, pointing to the uneven braids and missing beads. Her mother examined the hair closely, her fingers running gently over the strands, noting the damage in the areas that had been cut carelessly. She remained calm, even though inside a protective fire was building. She knew that her daughter had experienced an injustice and that it needed to be addressed properly. They sat together for a while longer, discussing what had happened and how it had made the girl feel. Her mother emphasized the importance of understanding that people sometimes make mistakes. But that didn't mean the child was at fault. She explained that hair is personal and nobody should touch it without permission. She wanted her daughter to know that standing up for oneself is important and that she had the right to be upset about what happened. The girl listened intently, soaking in every word. She felt comforted by the knowledge that her mother understood, that she would not dismiss her feelings and that she would take action. The warmth of her mother's presence made the situation feel less frightening and more manageable. She began to relax slightly, feeling the love and support that she so desperately needed after the day's events. Later in the evening, her mother made a few phone calls to arrange a meeting with the school. She remained composed and professional, explaining the situation clearly and calmly. She emphasized that the teacher had overstepped boundaries and that the incident needed to be addressed. She requested that her daughter's well-being be considered and that proper steps be taken to prevent such incidents in the future. While making these calls, she made sure her daughter was nearby. letting her know that she was handling the situation with care and authority. The girl watched her mother with admiration, feeling a sense of pride mixed with relief. Her mother's calm and deliberate approach reassured her that justice would be sought without unnecessary drama or anger. She realized that her mother was not just a parent, but also a protector, someone who could navigate difficult situations and ensure that fairness was maintained. The following day, the girl prepared for school with a sense of cautious optimism. She still felt nervous about facing her classmates and the teacher, but she also felt empowered knowing that her mother was involved. Her mother encouraged her to walk into the school with confidence, to know that she had done nothing wrong and that her voice mattered. At school, the girl noticed the teacher looking uneasy, as if she sensed that something was about to happen. The whispers from classmates still lingered, but the girl focused on her schoolwork and tried to ignore them. She had learned that her feelings were valid, and that her mother's support was stronger than the momentary discomfort she felt in the classroom. During lunch, her mother arrived at the school, officially scheduled to meet the principal and the teacher. The girl watched from a distance as her mother entered the office, speaking with authority yet maintaining a calm and professional demeanor. She explained the situation clearly, highlighting the teacher's actions and how they affected her daughter emotionally. She emphasized the need for understanding, respect, and accountability, without turning the situation into a personal attack. The principal listened attentively, nodding and taking notes. The teacher appeared remorseful, realizing that her actions had crossed a boundary she hadn't fully understood. The mother calmly discussed how such incidents could be prevented in the future, suggesting sensitivity training and guidelines for handling personal boundaries with students. Her approach was measured but firm, ensuring that her daughter's experience was taken seriously. After the meeting, the mother returned to her daughter, who was waiting nervously outside the office. She reassured her that the situation had been addressed and that steps would be taken to prevent such incidents in the future. The girl felt a sense of relief wash over her, knowing that her voice had been heard and that her feelings had been validated. The rest of the school day passed more smoothly. The teacher avoided singling out the girl, and some classmates expressed support, letting her know that they understood it wasn't her fault. The girl began to feel a small sense of normalcy return, but she remained aware of the importance of standing up for herself and maintaining her boundaries. That evening, the girl and her mother sat together at the kitchen table, reflecting on the day's events. The mother praised her daughter for her courage in speaking up and explained that not all problems could be solved immediately, but taking action was always the first step. They discussed ways to handle similar situations in the future and how to communicate feelings clearly and respectfully. The girl began to see the incident not only as something hurtful, but also as an opportunity to learn about personal boundaries, advocacy, and the importance of supportive relationships. She felt stronger knowing that her mother was by her side, guiding her and standing up for her when she couldn't do it alone. Before bed, the girl carefully examined her hair in the mirror, touching the uneven braids gently. She felt a mix of sadness and resilience. While part of her still wished the teacher had asked first, she also recognized her own strength and the power of having someone who truly cared. Her mother reminded her that her hair, her feelings, and her identity were all important, and that anyone who didn't respect that needed to be held accountable. That night, the girl went to sleep feeling a sense of hope. The day had been difficult, but she had learned that standing up for oneself was important, that mistakes could be corrected, and that love and support could make even the hardest moments manageable. She didn't know exactly what the next day would bring at school, but she felt ready to face it, knowing that her mother was a steady, protective presence in her life. In this part of the story, the girl's mother played a key role in transforming a painful experience into a learning and healing opportunity. Her calm and decisive actions ensured that her daughter felt valued, heard, and safe. The story emphasized the importance of understanding, empathy, and the protective bond between parent and child, setting the stage for the next part where the school confrontation would take place. The next morning, the mother arrived at the school with a calm, professional demeanor. Her daughter walked beside her, holding her hand tightly. She still felt nervous about facing the teacher, but having her mother there gave her courage. As they entered the office, the principal greeted them warmly, aware that a sensitive issue needed attention. The mother thanked the principal for meeting with them and explained clearly and calmly what had happened. She described how her daughter's hair had been cut without consent, how it had affected her emotionally, and why it was important to address the situation. The principal listened carefully, nodding and taking notes. She asked questions to fully understand the incident, making sure every detail was clear. The teacher was called into the office and joined the meeting looking uneasy. She had realized that her actions were being taken seriously and that the situation was more serious than she had initially thought. The mother spoke firmly but respectfully, emphasizing that while she understood the teacher may have thought she was helping, cutting a child's hair without permission crossed personal boundaries. She explained that hair was not just physical appearance. It held cultural and personal significance. Her words were measured and calm, but they carried the weight of authority and experience. The teacher listened quietly, occasionally nodding, but it was clear that she had not fully realized the impact of her actions until now. She admitted that she had acted without thinking and expressed sincere remorse for causing emotional pain to the child. The mother acknowledged the apology, but stressed that understanding and correction were necessary to prevent similar incidents from happening again. The conversation continued, discussing steps the school could take to ensure students' personal boundaries were respected. The mother suggested sensitivity and diversity training for staff, clear policies regarding personal space, and communication with parents before making any changes to a child's appearance. She wanted to make sure the lesson went beyond her daughter's situation and could help improve the school environment for all students. Throughout the meeting, the daughter stayed close to her mother, observing how calmly and assertively she handled the situation. She began to feel a sense of empowerment, understanding that her mother's support meant she did not have to face injustice alone. The teacher's remorse became more apparent as she listened to the mother's reasoning, realizing the seriousness of her actions and the need to change her approach. The principal agreed to take action, recognizing the importance of the mother's concerns. She thanked the mother for her professional and thoughtful approach and promised to follow up with measures to prevent future incidents. The teacher was asked to reflect on her behavior and attend training to better understand cultural and personal boundaries. The mother felt satisfied that the conversation had been productive, leaving a sense of hope that positive change could come from this difficult situation. After the meeting, the mother and daughter left the office. The girl felt relieved, seeing that her mother had handled the situation effectively. She realized that standing up for herself and having someone advocate for her made a real difference. The incident was not forgotten, but it had been addressed in a way that validated her feelings and ensured accountability. Back at school, the teacher made efforts to interact with the girl more respectfully. She apologized again, this time in front of the class, making sure that the child felt acknowledged and respected. The classmates who had witnessed the incident were reminded about empathy and understanding, reinforcing the importance of respecting everyone's personal space. The girl felt a small but significant shift in the classroom atmosphere, noticing that her peers were more supportive and considerate. Over the next few days, the mother stayed in contact with the school, checking on her daughter's well-being and ensuring that the steps agreed upon were being implemented. She wanted to make sure that the school was following through, not just offering temporary solutions. The girl began to feel more comfortable, realizing that her voice mattered and that her mother's guidance had made a real impact on her school environment. The experience taught the girl several important lessons. She learned the value of clear communication, the importance of standing up for oneself, and the power of having a supportive adult who would advocate on her behalf. She understood that mistakes happen, but what mattered was taking responsibility and learning from them. Her confidence began to grow and she felt empowered to express her feelings more openly in the future. By the end of the week, the classroom atmosphere had improved. The teacher was more aware of students' boundaries and the children were reminded to treat one another with respect and kindness. The girl felt a renewed sense of belonging, knowing that her concerns had been heard and that the adults around her were taking her feelings seriously. The mother reflected on the situation as well, proud of how she had handled it and grateful that her daughter had trusted her enough to share her pain. She knew that this was not just about a haircut. It was about teaching respect, understanding, and advocacy. The meeting had been a step toward positive change, ensuring that personal boundaries would be respected and that children would feel safe and valued in their school environment. The girl returned home each day with a sense of relief and a growing confidence in herself. She knew that even though the incident had been painful, It had also been a learning experience. She felt supported, empowered, and ready to face challenges with the knowledge that she was not alone. The mother's guidance had turned a difficult situation into an opportunity for growth, understanding, and justice. Through this part of the story, the focus was on the school confrontation, the mother's advocacy, and the teacher's understanding of the impact of her actions. It showed how clear communication, calm authority, and empathy could transform a negative experience into a constructive outcome. The daughter's feelings were acknowledged and validated, and the groundwork was laid for ongoing positive changes in the school environment. After the school confrontation, the girl and her mother returned home, carrying a sense of relief. The girl was still processing what had happened but felt comforted by her mother's guidance and the resolution at school. She sat on the couch, her hands in her lap, reflecting on the events. Her mother sat beside her, speaking softly about the importance of learning from difficult experiences. She explained that while what had happened was wrong, it was also an opportunity to see how standing up for oneself and seeking help could lead to positive outcomes. The girl listened carefully, feeling a mix of emotions. She felt sadness for the loss of her braids and frustration at the unfairness of the situation. But alongside these feelings was a growing sense of pride. She realized that her mother's support had empowered her to face a challenging moment, and that together, they had ensured the situation was handled properly. She understood that mistakes happen, but taking action responsibly could make a meaningful difference. Over the next few days, the teacher began showing genuine efforts to make amends. She approached the girl with a sincere apology, acknowledging the emotional impact of her actions. The teacher also started educating herself on the cultural significance of hair and personal boundaries, attending sessions on sensitivity and diversity. The girl noticed the teacher's change in behavior and began to feel more comfortable and respected in the classroom. Her peers, too, were reminded about empathy and understanding, which improved the overall atmosphere in the school. The mother continued to check in with the school, ensuring that the measures discussed were being implemented. She emphasized that accountability was not just about one incident, but about creating a safer and more respectful environment for all students. Her calm yet firm approach helped the school staff understand the importance of proactive measures and clear communication with parents and students. At home, the mother and daughter spent time discussing personal boundaries, respect, and self-advocacy. They practiced ways to communicate feelings clearly and assertively, preparing for any future situations where the girl might feel uncomfortable or disrespected. The mother encouraged her daughter to express herself openly and assured her that her voice was important and deserved to be heard. The girl began to regain confidence, feeling a renewed sense of self-worth. She experimented with different hairstyles that reflected her identity and personal preference, celebrating her individuality. Her classmates started to recognize her confidence and admired her for standing up for herself. The support from her mother and the positive changes in the school reinforced the importance of advocating for oneself and maintaining personal boundaries. Through conversations at home, the girl also learned about forgiveness and understanding. She recognized that the teacher had made a mistake, and that growth and learning were possible when people acknowledged their errors and made an effort to change. This understanding allowed her to feel less anger and more empathy, strengthening her emotional resilience. The mother used the experience to teach broader lessons about life, respect, and cultural awareness. She explained that challenges and unfair situations would arise, but responding with calm, thoughtful action and seeking support from trusted individuals could lead to meaningful solutions. The girl absorbed these lessons, realizing that difficult moments could become opportunities for growth, learning, and positive change. As weeks passed, the girl noticed a difference not only in herself but also in the school environment. Teachers and students became more mindful of personal boundaries, and conversations about respect and empathy became more common. The classroom felt safer and more inclusive, and the girl felt proud to be part of this positive change. At home, the mother continued to support her daughter, celebrating her courage and growth. They reflected on the journey from the initial incident to the current state, appreciating the lessons learned and the steps taken to ensure fairness and understanding. The girl felt grateful for her mother's guidance and for the way the situation had been handled with care and respect. The experience left a lasting impact on the girl. She felt more confident, self-assured, and aware of her rights and boundaries. She learned the importance of speaking up when something feels wrong, and the value of having a supportive adult to advocate on her behalf. Her relationship with her mother grew stronger, based on trust, communication, and mutual respect. The teacher's efforts to understand and correct her mistake also contributed to a more positive environment. The girl realized that people could learn from their errors and that accountability and empathy were powerful tools for change. She felt hopeful that the lessons from this incident would benefit not only her, but also her peers and the school community. By the end of this period, the girl had grown emotionally and mentally, turning a difficult experience into an opportunity for empowerment. She understood that her feelings mattered, that her voice could create change, and that she was capable of handling challenges with the support of those who cared for her. The mother's calm, authoritative guidance had transformed a painful incident into a powerful lesson about respect, advocacy, and personal growth. Months passed since the incident with the teacher, and the girl began to notice how much had changed. She walked into her classroom one morning, feeling a quiet confidence that had not been there before. The classroom now had an atmosphere of respect and understanding, where students felt more comfortable sharing their feelings and expressing themselves. The teacher, who had once acted without understanding, was now more mindful, attentive, and considerate of personal boundaries. She approached every student with a thoughtful awareness that what might seem small to one person could hold great significance to another. The girl looked at her reflection in the hallway mirror, gently running her fingers through her braids. They had grown longer now, and she took pride in styling them the way she liked. Her hair was a symbol of her identity, her culture, and her personal choice. She realized that although the first experience had been hurtful, it had also given her an opportunity to stand up for herself and see the importance of speaking out when something felt wrong. The memory of that day still lingered, but it no longer carried the weight of shame or embarrassment. Instead, it had become a lesson in resilience and self-respect. Her mother continued to play a significant role in her life, reinforcing the lessons of advocacy, empathy, and personal strength. They often talked about the importance of being aware of one's rights and boundaries, and how to respond thoughtfully when they were crossed. These conversations helped the girl develop confidence and a strong sense of self. She learned that life could present challenges, but with support, communication, and courage, she could navigate them successfully. At school, the girl noticed that her classmates were more aware of each other's feelings. Discussions about empathy, respect, and personal space became part of the classroom culture. Teachers were implementing strategies that encouraged students to share their thoughts and experiences without fear of judgment. The girl felt proud to be part of a community that valued understanding and kindness. She realized that change was possible when people were willing to learn, reflect, and grow from their mistakes. The teacher, having learned from her previous error, was now a model of accountability and growth. She took time to understand the cultural significance of her students' choices, asking questions respectfully and seeking guidance when needed. She acknowledged that mistakes could happen, but emphasized that learning and improvement were always possible. Her interactions with the girl were filled with respect, encouragement, and attentiveness, showing that she had internalized the lessons from the incident and wanted to create a positive, safe environment for all students. At home, the mother continued to nurture her daughter's confidence and emotional growth. She encouraged her to express herself, make decisions, and handle situations with integrity and thoughtfulness. The girl began to recognize her own strength and agency, understanding that she could face challenges and advocate for herself. She also learned that standing up for herself did not mean being confrontational. It meant expressing her feelings clearly, calmly, and respectfully. The girl began to take on small leadership roles at school, helping her classmates and participating in discussions about respect, fairness, and understanding. She realized that her experiences had given her a unique perspective and empathy for others, who might feel marginalized or misunderstood. Her confidence grew, and she felt proud of the progress she had made, knowing that her voice mattered and that she could make a difference. Meanwhile, the school continued to implement policies that promoted awareness and respect for personal boundaries. Sensitivity training for teachers became a regular part of professional development, and students were encouraged to discuss their feelings openly. The girl noticed that the classroom was now a space where everyone could express themselves freely, without fear of judgment or interference. This change brought a sense of community and safety that was empowering for her and her peers. The mother watched her daughter's growth with pride and satisfaction. She had handled the initial incident with calm authority, ensuring that her daughter felt supported and valued. Over time, she saw the impact of that support reflected in her daughter's confidence, self-awareness, and ability to navigate challenges. The experience had not only strengthened their bond, but had also provided valuable life lessons about fairness, respect, and resilience. The girl also began to understand the importance of forgiveness and personal growth. She recognized that while the teacher had made a mistake, the willingness to acknowledge it, apologize sincerely, and take steps to improve was a meaningful act. This understanding helped the girl let go of lingering frustration and embrace the lessons of empathy, patience, and growth. She learned that people could change and that mistakes, when addressed responsibly, could lead to positive outcomes. In her personal life, the girl became more aware of her surroundings and the feelings of others. She started helping classmates who were shy or hesitant to express themselves, offering encouragement and support. Her experiences had taught her that advocacy and empathy were powerful tools for building a caring community. She began to realize that her voice could inspire change, and that supporting others was as important as standing up for herself. The relationship between the teacher and the girl continued to evolve positively. The teacher often sought the girl's perspective, showing respect for her opinions and validating her experiences. The girl felt valued and respected, which further reinforced her confidence and sense of belonging. She understood that growth and learning were ongoing processes, and that people could improve when they were willing to reflect and take responsibility. Over time, the girl became a role model for younger students, demonstrating courage, resilience, and empathy. She shared her experiences in age-appropriate ways, helping others understand the importance of personal boundaries and self-respect. Her journey had transformed a painful incident into an opportunity for empowerment, education, and community improvement. The mother continued to guide her daughter, emphasizing the lessons of advocacy, understanding, and resilience. She encouraged her to take pride in her identity, express herself confidently, and approach challenges with thoughtfulness and courage. The girl absorbed these lessons, becoming more self-assured and emotionally aware. She felt grateful for the support and guidance of her mother, recognizing that it had been instrumental in shaping her growth and confidence. By the end of this period, the girl had grown emotionally, mentally, and socially. She had transformed a difficult experience into a source of empowerment and learning. She understood the importance of standing up for herself, supporting others, and fostering respect and understanding within her community. The lessons she learned would continue to influence her actions, relationships, and personal growth throughout her life. The story concluded with a sense of hope and accomplishment. The girl had faced a challenging situation with courage and received support from a loving, protective parent. The teacher had learned the significance of boundaries and respect, transforming her approach to students. The school environment improved, and the girl's confidence and self-awareness grew. The incident, while initially painful, had become a catalyst for positive change, teaching valuable lessons about empathy, advocacy, and resilience. Ultimately, the girl realized that personal challenges could lead to growth, understanding, and positive transformation. She had learned that her feelings mattered, her voice was important, and that with support she could navigate difficult situations successfully. The mother's guidance, combined with the lessons learned from the school, had empowered her to face the world with confidence, compassion, and strength. The story ended on a hopeful note, highlighting the lasting impact of love, support, and thoughtful advocacy in shaping a young person's life.